It's time for overtime.
Stop what you're doing and listen.
In the world of sports, it's all about the playmakers in today's headlines, from locals to the pros, with interviews from local standouts and sports all-stars across the country that will have you talking.
He'll shoot, and he hits it at the buzzer.
Hear from coaches to players, sports analysts, and broadcasters who are a part of the action every day. Overtime, now with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
It's a tremendous Tuesday edition of Overtime. Welcome into the show. Monday Night Football. Pretty entertaining game between two teams scratching and clawing and fighting to not be eliminated from postseason consideration. Cowboys take the loss. They're 5-8 and in all sorts of trouble. And the Bengals take the win, also 5-8 in trouble. They're back 3 games with 4 games to go, but there is a path to the Bengals getting in the playoffs. It involves the demise of the Denver Broncos. The most likely path is if Denver absolutely positively blows it down the stretch. Those two will also meet in a couple of weeks, and the Bengals pretty much have to win out to have any chance at getting into this year's postseason. Monday Night Football, Bengals 27, Cowboys 20, and the Cowboys blocked a punt late in the game, and it ended up being not just a bad thing for Dallas, but a game-costing mistake. Blocking the punt, not necessarily the block itself, but the result of the play. More on that coming up in due time. Welcome again into this Tuesday edition of Overtime. I'm your host, Bert Rameen. You can track me down on Twitter at anytime at BertESPN. And you're always welcome to weigh in on the show and get everything off your chest here from a sports fan perspective. 605-362-3776. A lot to come on today's show. Kind of a coyote kind of first hour here on a Tuesday. We're talking USD Volleyball with head coach Leanne Williamson here in about 15, 20 minutes on the show. And then we dial up our buddy and the guy that used to sit right here in this seat, Jerry Palleschi, USD women's basketball play-by-play voice, also heavily involved with the Sioux Falls Sports Authority. We're talking the D2 volleyball tournament that rumbles its way in to the 605 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, how you can get involved, the teams involved, and why this is going to be a big event this week and weekend here in the 605. Jerry P. set to join us around 11:35. My power rankings for week 15 of the National Football League, 11:45. That's hour number 1. Hour number 2, we're talking Iowa Hawkeyes with Sean Bach. Hawkeye coverage for 24/7 Sports. He swings by the show at about 12:20. Latest from the NFL, clinching scenarios for Week 15 in the National Football League, and a current deep, long look at the playoff field in the AFC and in the NFC, where the Packers fell with their latest loss and who the biggest challenger is to maybe get the Packers out of the playoff field. What is realistic for Green Bay down the stretch? Minnesota, and all the other teams near and dear to our hearts. And of course, we round out this Tuesday edition of Overtime with the latest and greatest in a beefy edition of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Monday Night Football, pretty good football game, 20-20 late in the program. Cincinnati on to punt the football. They get it blocked by former Bengal Nick Vigil. That's great. Cowboys should be in primo field position. The issue is the ball deflected and went beyond the line of scrimmage. That's important. And then a Cowboys defensive back reserve player, Amani Oruwariye, decided to touch the football. And Dallas had it ricochet out of his hands and back to the Bengals. Cincinnati takes the ball, goes down the field, and scores the game-winning touchdown, 27-20. Yes, nothing can go right for the Dallas Cowboys this year. Joe Burrow said postgame, we've had a lot of bad bounces this year. I think we were owed that one. A mystifying bad break for the Dallas Cowboys. Here's head coach Mike McCarthy on his team falling short once again.
I feel terrible for the players because, they give you everything during the week, and it's been a bumpy ride without a doubt. So it's just really raw right now. So I just feel for those guys.
Dallas Cowboys, just like the Bengals, 3 games out of the final postseason spot with just 4 weeks to go. McCarthy talking up playoff chances postgame last night.
With 8 losses, how do you reconcile where you head after this? Do you still
reconcile? I mean, Well, I mean, we just do the math. Obviously, we're not even back to even. We're still in the hole. So we need a tremendous amount of help. Is just being Captain Obvious here. So I mean, it's just one of the things we had to have this one.
That hole in Dallas got a little bit deeper last night with the latest loss. They are now 5-8. Cincy is 5-8. Both teams 3 games back of the final spot in their respective conferences. 4 weeks to go in the regular season. Adam Schefter talking the obvious. Mike McCarthy's job status. Where does it stand right now for Mike in Big D?
Shaky, tenuous. We didn't need last night's result to change any of the thinking. He does have support there from Dak Prescott, from Micah Parsons, from various people. Jerry Jones even talked about the idea that he could bring him back. We're talking about a proven NFL head coach who has won a Super Bowl and did have success in Dallas, despite the fact that the Cowboys didn't win in the playoffs. There were 3 straight years where they won 12 games each season in the regular season. There was a stretch where he was the winningest coach in Dallas Cowboys franchise history. So, again, this is the kind of season that when you have a year like this, these are the questions that come up. He's on an expiring contract. So I would imagine after a season like this, it's harder to imagine that the Dallas Cowboys would rush out to go renew that deal. But again, all things are going to be on the table here, and we'll see how it works out.
It feels like a convenient, easy out for the Dallas Cowboys, plain and simply. Not to say that they fired Mike McCarthy, but they just didn't bring him back on a new contract. That feels like a nice way of saying, Mike, we appreciate the time. It didn't work out. Let's move on to someone else. Let's hit this reset button, not the panic button, but the reset button, because they certainly have a lot of big playmakers and high-quality football players on the roster, but they need to reshape some things, reapproach some things in Dallas to get back to playoff relevance. Both teams 5-8 following last night's Monday Night Football wrap-up of week number 14. Week 15 starts on Thursday night. Rams and the Niners, important game from Santa Clara for the NFC West playoff pecking order. That's a 7:15 start on Prime Video. Niners are a 2.5-point favorite in that game. Sunday slate for our area teams gets started with the Chiefs visiting the Cleveland Browns. That is a noon start on CBS. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes talking about another close game, another close win for his team this past week.
Even though I feel like we could have played better, I mean, that's a good football team, a good defense, and we were able to have a good last drive there to get us in field goal range. As long as we have a chance to go out there and have the football and make a play happen, I feel like we're going to make it happen and give Matthew the chance to kick the field goal, and he knocked it through.
Kansas City Chiefs picked up the win this past weekend over the Chargers. They'll look to do the same against the Cleveland Browns. Recently eliminated Cleveland, 12 o'clock on CBS. Browns, by the way, are currently the 11 seed in the AFC. They are eliminated, 3-10 the record, but there are 6 teams, in the AFC with 3 wins or less right now as we approach week 15 of the NFL season. Colts and Broncos, very important game as Indy looks to jockey for position to go with that horse theme against the Broncos for a playoff spot. The Colts right now are the 8 seed. The Broncos are the 7. They're separated by 2 games. This game very important, 3:25 on CBS Sunday afternoon. Bills at Lions, 3:25 on CBS as well. And Steelers and Eagles, 3 big games all at the same time on Sunday. I'm glad I've got a Super Box and Red Zone and Sunday Ticket included in that. Jeff Saturday talking about the drama that has come out of Philadelphia and why it might be a cause for concern heading into the final stages of the regular season.
Receivers, man, like receivers, right? It's a running joke. They're worried about their catches and their contracts, but that's kind of the reality of what receivers do. And I don't fault him for it. Yeah, I mean, when you think about A.J. Brown, he is a true one. And when I say that, everybody has a quote one on their team. A.J. Brown is a true one, meaning wherever he went in the NFL, he would be the one receiver. And he is a massive human being who gives matchup problems all over the field. But let's be realistic. Every offensive coordinator in the NFL, if they can run by winning, it is a low-risk, high-reward proposition.
Hello. And that has been the recipe to success so far this year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley is in that MVP conversation for that reason. But in case you missed it, Brandon Graham, who's been around Philadelphia since cheese was cheddar, his entire career, he has been there and bled that green for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, he was commenting recently on a radio show earlier this week about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. He said on the radio, the person that's complaining needs to be accountable. I don't know the whole story, but I know that Hurts is trying, and Brown could be a little better with how he responds to things. They were friends before this, but things have changed. And I understand that because life happens, but it's the business side that we have to make sure the personal doesn't get in the way of the business. For one of your team leaders, a guy that's set to retire after this year and has been playing out the string, a great locker room veteran guy, to go on the radio and say this does not make any sense. You create a little bit of a rift here. You air out the dirty laundry. You're doing so darn good, Philly. Don't blow it. And here we are. It's not Sirianni, but a locker room drama this week as we get towards week 15 for the Eagles that might very well be their undoing. They looked really bad against the Panthers. They should have lost that football game. Bad drop from a rookie receiver. Panthers dropped the ball late, and Philly survives. That's great. But they cannot play that way and cannot have an internal strife and rift like this heading into the postseason, where a lot of us, myself included, were finally starting to buy into Philly as being a Super Bowl contender, legitimate contender, good defense, great running game, offense, passing game when you need it. They were a really good team this year, but this is an ugly look. Brandon Graham, one of the savvy vets on the roster, not being savvy this week in a radio interview. More on that, ESPN.com. Now for the primetime slate. A lot of this hits close to home. Big game in the NFC playoff picture. Sunday Night Football. Packers at Seahawks from Seattle, 7:20 on NBC. Packers are a 3-point road favorite in that game. Vikings are a touchdown favorite at home against the Chicago Bears for Monday Night Football. That's 7 o'clock on ABC and ESPN Plus over the weekend. Monday Night Football. Adam Schefter talking about what we talked about yesterday. Should the Vikings extend Sam Darnold? Are they talking with their current quarterback about his future with the organization? Here's Adam Schefter.
I don't think it's a big surprise that the two sides haven't spoken. I think it's a situation where the Vikings are going to let the season play out. Let's see how the season ends. By the way, like if Sam Darnold took them on some extended playoff run, do I think that they then would be having conversations? Yeah, I do. But however you look at it, I've always felt like the market would help determine whether or not there was any chance of Sam Darnold going back to Minnesota. I'd say it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to look to land a starting quarterback caliber contract with another team.
And to be clear, yesterday I did say on the show, maybe Minnesota should make the call to Sam and say, what would you do? What would you take from us? Would we play on a franchise tag? Colin Cowherd floated that out yesterday. Might just be a brilliant idea for a little more continuity. 1-year deal for Sam Darnold to be the dude. J.J. McCarthy to continue to learn, rest, and recover. It's not the worst idea in the world, but I certainly understand the side's not talking just yet due to injury concerns and also this wait-and-see mode. If this fades down the stretch and Minnesota loses to Detroit, Minnesota loses to Green Bay, and as a first-round exit in the postseason, I think we're talking a little bit differently here. But regardless, great season so far for Sam Darnold. Neck and neck, by the way. You look at the trio of quarterbacks in the NFC North on the playoff contending teams, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and, of course, Sam Darnold. All three of those players, very comparable stats this year. Love has missed 2.5 games. The other two have played lights out. It has been very high-level quarterback play in the NFC North this season. That's the latest from the National Football League. College football now. Saturday, Navy against Army. Landover, Maryland. Best football game of the year. Don't at me there. 2 o'clock on CBS. And then into the FCS playoffs. Friday, we got Idaho visiting Montana State. 8 o'clock on ESPN. Saturday, Incarnate Word does it again against South Dakota State. They met up there in early September in the home opener for the Jackrabbits. They'll meet Saturday at 11 on ESPN. UC Davis down inside the Dakota Dome. 2 o'clock kick on ESPN Plus. In Mercer, the opponent for North Dakota State up in the Fargo Dome. That gets going at 2:30 on ABC. The bigger level of college football, FBS college football, apparently flirting with Bill Belichick. Here's Shefty confirming that might be a real interest between both parties.
From my vantage point, the talks with North Carolina are real. I understand he met with them yesterday for 5 hours. I don't think you spend 5 hours after days of discussions with a university if there's not something to it. Now, whether or not North Carolina can put together a package that's attractive and compelling enough for Bill, Whether that's ultimately what he decides to do, we'll see.
Interesting stuff there from Adam Schefter. As I said yesterday on the show, I'm starting to come around to the idea of that Patriot way being injected into the veins there in Chapel Hill, recruiting these players that want to get to the league, play for one of the best coaches in NFL history, and by some people's measure, the best coach in NFL history. A lot easier to implement that Patriot way from the ground up with the transfer portal, with recruiting, and doing it your way in college than it would be to hit the reset button in any organization in the National Football League. Maybe that's the more attractive scenario for Bill Belichick and his coaching family. Now into college football as well. Ashton Jeanty is a Heisman finalist. Here's what he had to say about helping his team to the college football playoff this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's legendary. You know, it's never been done in the history of this program. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of this team, you know, the first team to do it. And obviously it isn't just me that, you know, made this happen. It's, you know, the staff, the players, the coaches, you know, for all of us to come together and make history. I mean, it's amazing.
Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, not the odds-on favorite to win the thing, but one of 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy this year, joining Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel, and Heisman frontrunner Travis Hunter. On to the NBA. The Knicks won in the lone game last night on the NBA slate. 113-108 winners in Toronto. Karl Anthony Towns, 24 points and 15 rebounds in the win. New York is now 15-9. Tonight in the NBA Cup quarterfinal action. Magic at Bulls, 6 o'clock. Mavericks at Thunder, 8:30. Both of those games can be seen on TNT. Women's basketball, 2 games tonight involving area programs. USD at Northern Iowa. That's a 6 o'clock go time from Cedar Falls. Watch it on ESPN+. And the Denver Pioneers are in Boulder, nearby rival the Colorado Buffaloes. That matchup, 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Men's basketball last night, Minnesota lost to Indiana 82-67. Gophers are 6-5. And tonight in men's hoops, Wyoming in town inside the Dakota Dome, Sanford Coyote Sports Center to battle USD at 7 o'clock jump time from down in Vermilion. And lastly, NHL hockey, Blackhawks pick up a win against the Rangers on the road, 2-1. Chicago, worst record in all of the NHL, improved last night to 9-17-2. Tonight in the NHL, Avalanche at Penguins, 6 o'clock. Bruins at Jets, 7. Wild at Utah, 8:30. Blues at Canucks, 9 o'clock. All 4 of those games can be streamed on ESPN+. Jeff Passan talking up the big-time deal. Juan Soto to the New York Mets. Does this make the Mets a serious contender?
It just shows you how far the Mets have come, right? And since Steve Cohen bought the team in 2020, there's been a wholesale reinvention of the Mets. For so long, this was a team that, you know, when the fans looked at them, when they looked at themselves, it was foible after foible. It was mishap after mishap. It was like a mid-market team had been plopped down in New York City, and that was how they acted. But Steve Cohen has changed the culture there. It's changed internally, but more than that, it's changed externally. The fans now look at the New York Mets as a team that is not just a legitimate contender, but a threat to win the World Series in years going forward.
Big time mega deal, 15-year deal, $700+ million, could be worth up to $800 million for Juan Soto's new deal that sends him just a few blocks away to the New York Mets moving forward. We do have your first set of preseason South Dakota high school basketball rankings to share with you now as we open up your Reliabank headlines of the day. In boys class AA, Mitchell is the top rated team. They received all of the first place votes, 13 of them, and they're followed in the poll by Washington, Lincoln, Huron, and Sioux Falls O'Gorman. Receiving votes category, Brandon Valley, Harrisburg, Roosevelt, and Jefferson. Quick correction, by the way, Harrisburg in the receiving votes category did receive 1 first place vote for the Tiger program. Single A, Sioux Falls Christian in a split vote is the top team, followed by Hamlin, Dakota Valley, Rapid City Christian, and Pine Ridge. And B's for the boys, Castlewood, followed by Viborg Hurley, Gregory, Del Rapids St. Mary, and Wessington Springs. Over to girls now, AA. The top-rated team preseason is O'Gorman. They received 3 first-place votes. Brandon Valley received 9, but mathematically, with the polls, they are tied for that top spot. Brandon Valley, the 2, Washington 3rd, Stevens 4th, and Jefferson 5th. Receiving votes in the biggest class, Harrisburg, Pierre, and Spearfish. Class Single A, Vermilion, dominant in the poll, 11 first-place votes, followed by Sioux Falls Christian, Hamlin, Wagner, and Mapio Luda. And Class B, Centerville, the top team, 13 first-place votes, Coates, followed by Ethan, Sanborn Central, Woonsocket, Parkston, and Lyman to round out the top 5 in the preseason poll for South Dakota high school girls and boys basketball. That season is right around the corner. Season just came to a close for USD Volleyball. Longtime head coach Leanne Williamson set to join us next after an impactful and impressive conclusion to the season, which included a Summit League tournament title and a berth in the NCAA tournament for USD Coyote Volleyball. We talk with the coach next to recap the season and talk about next year and what's ahead for the USD Coyote Volleyball program. That's next on Overtime on a Tuesday right here on ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO.
Overtime is in the middle of your workday. Unwrap your sandwich and get caught up with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO, Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you on this Tuesday, December 10th edition of Overtime. Thanks for being part of the show and tuning us in as always right here on your Sioux Falls sports leader. Fall sports just about winding down, although we still have a couple football programs, volleyball programs in our area in action. Winter sports cranking up and now set to round out and wrap up the season for USD Coyote Volleyball. Joined now on the ESPN hotline by longtime USD Volleyball head coach Leanne Williamson. Coach, welcome into the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Coach, I'm really excited to talk to you. Talk about a fun season, impactful season, and one with a lot of highlights. 21-10 was the overall record, but really doesn't tell the story of how fun up and down this season was, and a lot more ups down the stretch than downs. Take us through what you and the staff took away from another tremendous season of USD Coyote Volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great year for us. We had an incredible team, incredible group of people, which obviously made the day-to-day very enjoyable, just as we went through the season. And, we had a mix of our roster, right? We had some that were returners that had a good amount of experience. And then we had a lot of freshmen and sophomores that just hadn't played a lot. So, as we started up, as we went through the season, we had some ups and downs with a young group, but I really feel like overall, the process, the journey that we went through, each one of those steps, both positive and maybe some of those failures, led us exactly to where we were supposed to be. And I think without some of those failures early on, I don't know if we end up being in the NCAA tournament. So a resilient group, a group that was willing to continue to learn throughout the entire season. And I'm just really proud of this team for sticking with it and continuing to learn all the way until the end.
Coach, I wanted to talk to you about a couple stretches of the season that caught my eye. From early October to early November, your team had won 8 of 9 matches. You round out the regular season with 3 consecutive tough losses at St. Thomas, at Omaha, and home against South Dakota State. You guys were swept in the season by Omaha and South Dakota State in the regular season, but you got a crack at both of those teams in the postseason as part of the Summit League tournament. How great was it to see the response despite falling in your final 3 matches of the season? I know how great those programs are that you lost to, but how great was it to see the response and play so well at the Summit League tournament just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that resilient part of the team that we were talking about. And, it's really easy as a group when you end your regular season that way, because going into that 3-game stretch, we knew that if we could win out, we could actually still end up with a 2 seed going into the tournament. So I think once we lost to St. Thomas, it was a little bit hard. I think there was a little bit of that, like, oh no, what's going on? How do we respond to this? And I think it would have been really easy to come back from that South Dakota State game and kind of pack in the season, hey, we're just not good enough. And I think the thing is as a coaching staff, we knew the entire year that this was a championship level team. And I think our team understood that too, and they believed it, So coming back to practice that next day, we were able to really dive in and be like, hey, like, this is where we're falling short. These are the things that are maybe holding us back. And it wasn't skill related. It wasn't the ability to do what we needed to physically. There were some mental things, mental components to it. And that's what you're going to have with a team that, there were 2 to 3 freshmen on the court and 2 to 3 sophomores on the court on any given night. So we had a lot of people that just didn't have some of that, big game, when it matters the most experience. And I think they continued to buy in, they continued to learn, but that resiliency and how incredible for them to be able to turn around and obviously sweep Kansas City to start with. And I think that just really set us off on the right path in that tournament. And then to be able to sweep Omaha, again, a team that we hadn't won more than, I think we won 2 sets during the regular season against, and then to all of a sudden, be able to go 3-0 against them. And, we still had some errors during that. We got aced 10 times in that semifinal match. But at the same time, it didn't affect the rest of our game. And we were so gritty and so tough in some of those other areas that we were able to come away with that 3-set sweep. And then, going into that last match versus SDSU, again, we could have kind of shrunk at the opportunity. It was a big moment, and those were the times that we tended to struggle throughout the season more so. But how incredible for them to come out and to be resilient, to just stay in the moment, and that's what we talked a lot about is you can't focus too much on what's happened in the past, and you can't look to the future. You have to be where your feet are. And I felt like this team, especially with how young we were in some areas, did such a good job of embracing that idea. And I really feel like it helped us be able to come out with that win, especially after kind of getting crushed a little bit in set 4 of that South Dakota State game, to be able to come back, start over in that 5th set when they had a lot of the momentum, and to be able to come away with that win. It just says a lot about this team. It says a lot about the resiliency and the toughness and honestly, in a lot of ways, the culture, of this team that we will continue to believe, we will continue to buy in, because we truly believe that we belong there.
Certainly a lot of highlights, a lot to be proud of, and a lot to look forward to in the future for USD Coyote volleyball. Head coach Leanne Williamson is our guest. 21-10 the finish to the season. Summit League tournament champions. And recently, coach, as of today, Kylan Seelock and Cameron Ferris were named AVCA All-Region Honorable Mention selections. Talk about that duo and what they have meant to the program, what they mean to the program moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, with a team that was as young as we were, Kylan and Cameron were a little bit more of the stable, pieces that had a little bit more of that experience. And, Kylan was playing some of her best volleyball there that last month of the season. I was really happy for her and proud of her for being able to kind of find that next level there at the end. And Cameron just all year had just done such a good job anchoring our defensive efforts. And the two of them obviously were a big part of our success as we went forward and throughout the season. Obviously, some parts skill-wise, but then some parts in that leadership of just, hey, this is what it means to play Coyote volleyball. This is what it means to support each other. This is what it means to be steady. This is what it means to show up every day and get just that little bit better. And we are very lucky to have the two of them on the court, in the program, in the locker room and beyond, to be able to help instill some of those ideas.
Very bright future ahead for USD volleyball. Head coach Leanne Williamson, our guest here. Tuesday edition of Overtime. It's ESPN 102.3 AM 1000 KSOO. Coach, you've been at the post as the head coach of USD volleyball since back in 2014. What do you think year over year? What are a few common elements, the keys to that year over year consistency and growth as a program?
I mean, obviously, our program, like everybody's, starts with that recruiting, and recruiting people that fit us and fit Coyote volleyball and understand, what it takes to be successful at this level. But, we continue to find people that want to help elevate the program, take it to the next level, but they want to be a part of Coyote volleyball. They want to be a part of a program that believes in balance. They want to be a part of a program that believes in winning championships and are obviously striving to do so every single year and accomplishing that, at a high level. They also want to be a part of a program that very much values academics. And I think when you can find people that fit that, and obviously with Michael and I having been here for obviously as long as we have, I think it helps as well, just that continuity within the staff and the team. But, for us, I think so much of it is obviously bringing in people that want to be a part of that and that fit us. But then, also it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of, soul searching at times and being willing to hold yourself accountable and, the tough conversations and finding ways to just push not only ourselves, but the people around us. And I feel like I'm extremely lucky to be blessed with obviously a great staff that continues to do that day in and day out. But we have found people and people have committed to being a part of Coyote athletics that also believe in that. So it's really just a great a great group of people, that help take us to that next step every single year. I think beyond that too, having a department, having a president, having the community support this program, because that is a big part of who we are as well. Fans show up, they're loud, they're intentional, and it just makes for a great atmosphere. And what student athlete doesn't want to play in front of a great crowd? So we've been very fortunate. I think volleyball is a priority. With a lot of different people, and that obviously helps as well. But I just feel like we've got a good group of people involved in this program right now that allows us to keep taking those steps each year.
Another great season for USD Coyote Volleyball recently came to a close. 21-10 finish, Summit League tournament champions, and another berth into the NCAA tournament. That's head coach Leanne Williamson. Coach, congrats on another great season. Excited already to follow along with the program next year and beyond. And thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, USD Volleyball head coach Leanne Williamson, our guest. 21-10 the finish to the season, and she mentioned all of the youth that had an opportunity and the challenge of playing this season. That's going to pay dividends moving forward for that program. 21-10 the finish, and again, first round appearance in the NCAA tournament. Lost in straight sets to area team Creighton down there in Omaha, 3-0. But that Summit League tournament run, nothing short of magical. First team ever in Summit League volleyball history to win 3 games in 3 days, 3 matches in 3 days to win the title. 3-0 over Kansas City, straight sets over Omaha as well, and a 3-2 set win over top-seeded South Dakota State. Jackrabbits also made an appearance at the NCAA tournament. We take the break, come back talking with our buddy, our pal, Jerry P. of USD Women's Basketball, and with the Sioux Falls Sports Authority. We're going to keep up the volleyball talk. Did you know the D2 volleyball tournament, as in the national championship tournament, is right around the corner? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right here in the 605 at the Sanford Pentagon. More on that with Jerry P. coming up next on Overtime.
You want more of Overtime? Cast free with the app or online at ESPN Sioux Falls. Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO.
We are off and running. Hour number 1 continuing overtime on a Tuesday. Thanks for making us a part of your day as always. ESPNSiouxFalls.com, the place for your latest and greatest sports news in the 605 and beyond. We're talking USD Coyotes all the way around in hour number 1. Just finished up our conversation with head volleyball coach Leanne Williamson. And now we head over to USD Women's Basketball play-by-play voice, longtime friend of the show, longtime heartbeat of the show, Jerry P. of the Sioux Falls Sports Authority, joining us now on the ESPN hotline. Buddy, you always bring a smile to my face. How you doing today?
Oh, Bert, I'm doing great. I'm sitting in what is kind of a quiet Pentagon right now. We've been set up for the Division II Volleyball Championships. I found myself into one of the areas over here at the Pentagon, so I'm just kind of shifted away for a moment, take a breather, and we just getting some things done for the student athletes and getting them excited to welcome them to Sioux Falls. And we're excited for this event, and I've been all over the place, man. It's been a wild couple of weeks, to say the least.
Let's start there, because I know you've got a lot of duties with women's basketball. You've been traveling with the men's team. You got football duties as well. How have you balanced things? And this has got to be pretty darn fun, although it's busy, right?
I will tell you that I could not have ever dreamed of such a life. It is honestly the best. Here I am again getting ready for the Division II Volleyball Championship that we're hosting with the Sioux Falls Sports Authority, which is, my full-time job. And it's just a pleasure. And it's always great to have these opportunities where you're putting on a championship event, not only for Sioux Falls, but for something that's going to be displayed across the entire country and really across the entire world, as they'll broadcast it on ESPN+. But then, to also be intertwined with USD and doing the women's basketball games and working with the Coyote Sports Network and having the opportunity to travel and go on the road and do those, it's just a true blessing that I just pinch myself every day for both of the deals that I get to do and being able to navigate both. And I've always said I'm very thankful for how open the Sioux Falls Sports Authority is and Thomas and company with the board of directors to allow me that opportunity as well with the USD stuff. But also on the other side of that is I'm very happy that USD is the exact same way back, because the USD Coyote women, playing against UNI tonight out on the road. And unfortunately, I can't be there for that because I'm doing this. But, we all work in harmony, and it's just beautiful.
And it's been pretty darn beautiful as well. We just got done talking about USD volleyball, strong season. Women's basketball working their way through the start of the season. Men's basketball off to a good start. And the football team, I was there inside the Dakota Dome for the battle against Tarleton State. Longest mesh point ever, by the way, between the quarterback and the running back for Tarleton State football. USD survives. Give me your 60-second take on the matchup with UC Davis coming up on Saturday.
Oh, here's what's fun about it is back when I was in college at the University of South Dakota in 2008 to 2012, they were part of this conference called the Great West Conference. And Bert, we're going back, man, because that is an old-fashioned Great West Conference battle coming up this Saturday for the playoffs. And it is kind of fun when you look at it that way, too, because these are two programs that were basically transitioning at the exact same time into Division I of what it is with the FCS. And you were playing in the Great West, which had no form of, an auto bid or anything like that into the FCS playoffs. You were literally in a conference to guarantee that you just had games that you were able to play. That's essentially what it was. So to have that chance now where you have a former Great West Conference foe on something that means a heck of a lot more today than what it did back in, 2011, 2012 when they were playing against each other, it's kind of special. Like, I know a lot of people would look at that and say, well, that doesn't seem like a very, special thing when you're playing, the old Great West Conference. But if you think about the longevity and the long term of where those two programs have gone to now meet in the quarterfinals, I think it's kind of cool.
It absolutely is, and they kind of mirror each other this year. I was looking at both schedules, some close wins, a marquee win over a traditional power. You guys beat NDSU. They took care of Montana. Both 2 losses total to a big power as well. They lost to Montana State. USD obviously lost to South Dakota State. A lot of similarities between the two teams that collide down in Vermillion coming up on Saturday. Before we get to the volleyball, though, I certainly value your opinion on the NFL. Give me the latest and greatest. What are your thoughts on the Minnesota Vikings right now?
Wasn't that just the greatest thing in the world to see Kirk Cousins come into the old stadium in which he played 6 years and then not just struggle against the Vikings, but to have Sam Darnold, who's only making $10 million this year, kind of light up the Falcons' defense? If anything, it was just it was the perfect game of the showcase of life after Kirk Cousins, because you have Kevin O'Connell, who I think you can argue now is a quarterback whisperer. I don't know if it really matters who is necessarily under center for him, but it was the right decision for both parties. And I think I remember saying that on this show, however many months ago, it was the right decision for Kirk Cousins to move on from a business perspective. Go get your money, go do what you want. But it was the right move from a team personnel and business perspective for the Minnesota Vikings. Don't throw all your cap into that. Don't throw all your money into one basket with Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury. Hey, get a bridge quarterback. Now, what I will full out admit, and I know you have this on record, is I didn't think they would be this good.
Oh, yeah.
I full out
no one did. No one
flat out. If this was a season in which they won anywhere between 5 to 7 games, I think you could be very happy. And boy, did they just blow that completely out of the water. I'll take the loss on that, and I'll take it very happily. But when you look at what Kevin O'Connell has been able to get out of Sam Darnold this year, I think you can be very optimistic about what he could potentially do with J.J. McCarthy when he's ready to go. I know there's a lot of talk now that's starting about, well, how do you just let Sam Darnold go? It's going to be the same type of situation. Do you really want to sit there and maybe pay Sam $30 million? I don't know necessarily about that. If he wants to take a team-friendly deal, because now he's starting to talk about how much he loves being in Minnesota. Ka-ching, ka-ching. You know what he's trying to say there, Bert.
Yep. But
the other side of that is you have your rookie quarterback in the building. You have Daniel Jones, who is on the practice squad, who's getting up to date, not necessarily saying I want him in any way, shape, or form to be the starter moving forward. It's not going to be the case. It's going to be JJ's team. It's just how do you position and get it to that point? So where everything is lined up, all of that said, you can't help but just be optimistic about where this team is right now. Kirk Cousins moves on. What were they able to replace out of him? How about a whole set of players on the defensive side that have aided this team to be where they're at today? And I think when you start looking at the salary cap space that is going to be open here in the future, the ability for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who has done a great job in the free agent market, maybe not necessarily as much in the drafting phase of everything, but in the free agent market, you can't say that he's missed. He's hit, and he has hit really well in what he's been able to do. So I think optimism is certainly super high with the Vikings, and I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not a Kirk Cousins hater. He's A-plus business guy. It was just time to move on, but there was something just absolutely perfect and storybook about the way that he performed on Sunday against his former team and the way that the Vikings performed against the Falcons.
Minnesota Vikings are not alone, but they seemingly cannot lose right now. They'll continue to win, I'm sure. Monday Night Football home to the Bears. They're a 7-point favorite in that game. Yes, you can catch the resentment in my voice, but I'm talking with Jerry P. You can find him on Twitter at RealJerryP. Sioux Falls Sports Authority helping to bring the D2 Volleyball Tournament. Final 8 teams in D2 Volleyball descending upon Sioux Falls in the Sanford Pentagon Thursday through Saturday. Give us the details here, how to grab some tickets. I assume the Pentagon box office is one place to grab your tickets. Give us what we need to know about this big event coming to Sioux Falls starting on Thursday.
This is great. You have 8 of the top volleyball teams from across the country coming here to Sioux Falls. And when I say across the country, we literally mean from Massachusetts to California, central Oklahoma. You have Texas, you got Florida, you got North Carolina. Everybody, for the most part, is going to be represented like corner to corner of this state, which is really exciting and really fun. We have Ferris State, who qualified out of their regional tournament. They went undefeated during the course of their season and the regional tournament, so they're coming in as the number 1 overall seed. And it's going to be high-level volleyball here in Sioux Falls, and tickets are very affordable as well. You can bring your family out. It's not going to break the bank. If you have a big group that would like to come out, we do have a group rate as well. If you have 10 or more people, that's just $5 a ticket if you have more than 10. Otherwise, I believe your general admission price is just $7. So if you're looking for something really fun to do over the course of the weekend, and we're playing Thursday, Friday with the championship match on Saturday night, this is the place to be. It's not going to break the bank again for you to come on out and bring your family, but you're also going to see high-level competition. I think that's what's really fun about it. We are crowning a champion here in Sioux Falls. And how many different places, Bert, can truly say that when you have NCAA events? It's only a handful every single year. We get to do so here in Sioux Falls at this world-class facility at the Sanford Pentagon. It's not something that you want to miss. We've been setting up for it. This is day 2 of our setup, and it's coming along, and we're getting all ready to go, and we're co-hosting this event with the Northern Sun. So the NSIC folks, they're making their way down into town, and we're just going to get everything ready to go. You're going to see the Pentagon. It's kind of like when we hosted D1 hockey at the Premier Center in March. It just has a different vibe and a different feel when you walk in and you see all the different NCAA logos and the championships, and you see the trophy presentation that we'll have on Saturday night, and it's truly special, and you're not going to want to miss it. So come on out. Again, it's going to be a great family event here at the Sanford Pentagon. You can get tickets at the Sanford Pentagon box office the day of the matches. We'll have the quarterfinals on Thursday, stretched from 11 a.m. until really 9 o'clock at night. Game match times will be 11, 1:30, 4, or 4:30, and then 7.
Yep.
So we'll have all 4 of those quarterfinals. Semifinal night will be on Friday, and then the championship match will be played on Saturday, and that's a 5 p.m. start on that championship as well. So plenty of opportunity to come out, see some great volleyball, skip out of work as well on Thursday, and you're not going to want to miss it. And truly, I know there's a lot of teams that are not necessarily from the direct local area. I think the closest team coming in, Bert, is from about 500 miles away, 550 miles away in central Oklahoma. But these are top-tier athletes that are coming to Sioux Falls, and we want them to have the best experience possible. So come on out. Let's fill the stands here at the Pentagon and give them a show.
And again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, your tickets, Sanford Pentagon box office, as well as other places, begins Thursday, 11 o'clock start for the match number 1. Best for last in terms of top seed, Ferris State will face off with Bentley. That is a 7 o'clock start time, likely to be wrapped up on Thursday around 9. Come back Friday and Saturday for the D2 Volleyball Tournament here in Sioux Falls. Jerry, I know both of us have a common background in play-by-play. I got to tell you, volleyball is one of, if not my favorite sports to call on the radio. What do you think about the sport? I love watching volleyball.
Volleyball is wonderful, and I have always said too that the top tier volleyball, when you're watching high level volleyball, there's almost nothing better. It's just so amazing to see not only how quick they are on the floor, but how fast they hit the volleyball over the net, the spikes, and everything else that comes with it. And to see the sport continue to grow, and I know you had Leanne Williamson on, and what she's done at the University of South Dakota, I think has really helped the volleyball community around the region as well, because now South Dakota State, you saw what they did this year on the D1 level. D2, guys, is when you look at the talent and the quality, it's kind of like basketball. You're going to see really good competition on the D2 level as well. And the team like for Ferris State probably could compete with a good chunk of Division I teams. So it's not, don't think like Division I, Division II, or any form of a split. This is very high level competition. And you're right, man. There's something just great about this game, whether you're calling it or whether you're watching it, that just makes it so entertaining. You have a point on every single time the ball goes up. You're going to have a point one way or another. And the atmosphere just becomes crazy at times and fun. So, it's certainly grown. It has grown over the years. It's going to continue to grow. Now you're seeing professional leagues popping up for after collegiate, volleyball play. So this is just really the start for something that could really boom here for this sport.
Great stuff. And again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the Sanford Pentagon. More information at sanfordpentagon.com as well as sfsportsauthority.org. Lastly, before we let you go, always like to check in with you Sports Authority folks on what might be coming down the pike. I would imagine the Boxing Classic is right around the corner, and what else might be coming down before too long for the Sioux Falls Sports Authority?
Yeah, so our Sioux Falls Boxing Classic, the third edition of the Sioux Falls Boxing Classic, will take place on Thursday night, January 30th at the district one more time. With that as well, Bert, we do have tables that are available. You can just email me. It's just jerryp@siouxfalls.com for information regarding that. This has been confirmed through the athletic commission, but I'm always going to start and say that card is subject to change because there's always something that could happen here or there. So card subject to change, but it looks like that we're going to have a championship bout that will take place at our event coming up at the end of January. And Deontay Walker, local kid for Sioux Falls, he's going to be involved with it. So we'll have a chance to crown a local champion here as well for our Sioux Falls Boxing Classic coming up at the district on January 30th. Again, it's not something that you can just jump on and purchase a ticket for. It's not like through the district's box office or anything like that. You have to work directly with us. So if you are interested in learning more information about it, all you have to do is just drop me an email. It's just jerryp@siouxfalls.com. One other note here, Bert, is that we have curling coming up, our U.S. Olympic curling trials in November of 2025. All session tickets for that event went on sale 10 a.m. this morning. So we've been, working to get ready for volleyball. And then we were like, oh yeah, hey, the curling tickets, we haven't forgot about them by any means. They went on sale this morning for all session tickets. You can get them Denny Sanford Premier Center box office, Ticketmaster.com as well for those. So a little bit of news for you here on this day with all session passes. Single session tickets for that event will go on sale at a later time. But we have our U.S. Olympic curling trials coming up in November of 25. We'll still help with the Summer League tournament coming up at the beginning of March. So we've got a lot coming up between volleyball, boxing, helping with the Summer League, curling, and then in March of 2026, 3 out of the 4 weekends, Thomas and I will be living at the Premier Center as we will help out with Summer League again in 2026, and we'll have D2 wrestling and D1 hockey, the regional coming back to Sioux Falls. So 2025, we got some events on the calendar, as with curling and boxing and Summit League and all of those. 2026 is going to be a real fun start to the year as we have 4 events tied in within the first, probably 10 weeks of the year in 2026.
All sorts of great stuff on the horizon with the Sioux Falls Sports Authority. Find out more information, sfsportsauthority.org. That is our buddy, Jerry P. Find him. Send him an email, jerryp@siouxfalls.com, or find him on Twitter @RealJerryP. Jerry, my buddy, I appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you again soon. All the best to you and the family.
Yeah, you as well. Merry Christmas to you guys. And Bert, I should be around town a little bit more now, at least until the beginning of the year when the Yotes start going on conference play. That's when I'll start heading out of Sioux Falls a little bit more in and out. But I should be home. So I think you and I have some catching up to do.
Oh, absolutely we do. Jerry P. of the Sioux Falls Sports Authority, jack of all trades, USD women's basketball, football, men's basketball. On top of all that, great family man as well, Jerry P. of the Sioux Falls Sports Authority. We take the break. We got to be lightning quick when we come back. It's my Week 15 NFL Power Rankings. The Vikings, pretty darn good. 5 touchdown passes. Did anyone ahead of Minnesota in last week's Power Rankings stumble enough for me to move the Vikings into my top 5? You'll have to wait and see next. Power Rankings around the corner. Overtime on a Tuesday continues next on ESPN Sioux Falls.
Stream us online, stream us on the app. Streaming now. Overtime with Bert Rameen on ESPN 102.3 and AM 1000 KSOO. Sioux Falls sports leader.
Right back with you, rounding out hour number one. We're a little bit late and over on time. On overtime, power rankings time. I'm going to skip the bed. We'll get right to the meat and the potatoes, if you will, of my power rankings. Last week, here's what I cooked up for you. I had Detroit at 1, Buffalo 2, Philly 3, Kansas City 4, and Baltimore 5. I had the Vikings at 6. The Packers at 7, the Steelers at 8, Chargers 9, Broncos at 10, and Washington and Seattle on the outside looking in. Last week, I gave you my teams on the rise. They were Tampa, Indianapolis, and the L.A. Rams. Now for week 15, this makes me sad. Anytime you get to these mid-teens of an NFL season, especially if your team isn't good enough to go to the playoffs, you start to think about the long, nasty, yucky, brutal offseason of the National Football League. But do not fret. Our area, our neck of the woods between the Chiefs and the Broncos, the Packers, and the Minnesota Vikings. Sorry, Bears. We're talking playoffs for all those teams right now as we sit here today. My team's on the rise for week 15 of the National Football League season. Tampa Bay. I think they're going to win the NFC South. There's a lot wrong with Atlanta right now. Kirk did not look much better. The stats were a bit better. Kirk didn't look much better this past week in that loss. Tampa on the rise. The Rams certainly on the rise. They could win that division, one game back of the Seahawks, and by the way, they'll meet before too long. San Francisco is inconvenient. They're on the rise. They're 6-7, 4 games remaining. Rams at home, at Miami, home to Detroit, and at Arizona. Not brutal, but is pretty darn tough for San Francisco potentially to win 9-10 games and get into the NFC playoff picture. Dolphins in the exact same boat, 6-7, 2 games back of Denver. They've got Houston on the road, San Francisco at home, Cleveland on the road, and the Jets on the road. So yes, Miami needs to win out or at least win 3 and have Denver collapse to get in to the postseason field. Those are my teams that are on the rise. Outside looking in, same as it was last week. Seattle and Washington. Like both of these teams a lot. I do not love either of these teams as far as being a true blue Super Bowl contender. The Denver Broncos are not a Super Bowl contender, but they're my 10th ranked team again this week. Chargers, similar boat, although I do think the Chargers have a little bit more Super Bowl gusto, if you will. They're at number 9 for me. Green Bay Packers, Jekyll and Hyde, could be a really good team. I think the Packers can beat anyone, including the Detroit Lions, the Minnesota Vikings, the Kansas City Chiefs. They can beat anyone. I really believe that. Can they win 3 consecutive massive games in the postseason? I'm not so sure. Green Bay falling down a spot to number 8 this week. Pittsburgh takes their spot at number 7. They've got the winning DNA, winning culture. That defense is special, and the offense has been good enough. Minnesota, I would love to move you up, but number 6 right now. Baltimore, number 5. I think Minnesota is the better team. Probably, but potential-wise, I still believe somehow, some way, Baltimore, explosive offense, the run game, all of that mashed into together. Baltimore, number 5, Minnesota, number 6 this week alone. Philadelphia took a dive in a win against the Carolina Panthers. A lot of concern, but Philly falls down to number 4. Buffalo, with an inconvenient loss to the Rams, still looked like an elite offensive team. They go from number 2 to number 3. And Kansas City, here we go again. Man, they're not that great. Here we go. Oh, my gosh, they won again. But they're winning so ugly. They're not going to really win the Super Bowl, are they? Wait till they see this team. Wait till they see that team. Wait till we see Patrick Mahomes get pressured. I don't think it's going to happen. Kansas City, number 2 for me. And the Detroit Lions remain number 1. The Packers provided the test. Dan Campbell almost handed the game over on a silver platter. But for now, Detroit is still your top team in my power rankings for week 15 of the NFL season. We are overtime on overtime, back with your headlines and highlights of the day. Still to come, Iowa Hawkeye talk, football, bowl game, and men's basketball on the menu. Sean Bach of 24/7 Sports set to join us in about 20 minutes. And then we're talking the NFL, clinching scenarios, playoff field, and more. And the good, the bad, the ugly still to come on this Tuesday edition of Overtime. We return with more of the show after this on ESPN Sioux Falls.